You can win an argument and lose your family. Is it worth it? Have you ever stopped to think that in trying to be right, you might be losing what matters most? Let me tell you the story of Jose. He is over 50 years old, and for a long time believed that in order to be respected, he needed to assert himself. That the right thing to do was to speak up when he wasn't heard. After all, those who were right had power. But little by little, he lost what he loved most, without realizing it. Jose didn't see time passing by, and he lost precious moments with his children. His wife was increasingly distancing herself, not because of a lack of love, but because he no longer knew when to stop arguing. He didn't understand that being right was worthless if it cost the peace of his home. And the scariest thing, he's not the only one. How many of us have lost opportunities, relationships, and even the chance to see our children grow up, all because of pride? But wait, today you'll see what Jose learned, and how you too can change before it's too late. I'm going to ask you a question. How many times have you won an argument and lost the chance to keep the peace with the one you love? If this kind of conversation makes sense to you, subscribe to the channel. Here we talk about real life, new beginnings, and how to live better after 50. You can bet each video will help you see life with different eyes. First, when everything turns into a fight, could it be that the problem is me? Jose is over 50. Gray hair, slow speech, gaze lost in memories that only he knows. The balcony has become his refuge, black coffee his companion in silence. But lately, Jose is tired. Not physically, but in his soul. Tired of fighting. Arguments with his wife that were rare before, now happened even over dinner. Conflicts with his children, who seemed to no longer understand the father who was always there. Even with his friends, everything turned into a competition of arguments, and no one seemed willing to simply listen anymore. One ordinary morning, after yet another pointless argument, he sank into the chair on the porch, looked at the horizon, and said in a low voice, "I can't stand arguing anymore. Could it be that I'm the problem?" That question kept echoing, because what Jose really wanted was peace. After so many years of fighting, working, raising his children, all he wanted now was silence with meaning, conversations without shouting, affection without tension. And that's when many people see themselves in Jose. Because there comes a time when we don't want to be right anymore. We just want to be okay. And understanding where we're going wrong is the first step to living in peace again. Jose didn't want to lose anyone else. He wanted to understand what was wrong and change. Question: do you feel like you're fighting more than you're talking lately? Second, the problem: it's hard to talk without it turning into an argument. Jose has always had a strong opinion. It was like that at work, at home, among friends. He grew up believing that a man needed to speak firmly, show presence, and not lower his head. For many years, this worked. He was respected, consulted, and listened to. But times have changed, and Jose felt it firsthand. At a Sunday lunch, his daughter started talking about how she was raising her grandson. Jose, with affection, made a simple suggestion, something he had learned from his own mistakes. But before he could even finish the sentence, she responded in a dry tone, "Dad, it's different these days." Jose fell silent, but inside it hurt. It wasn't because of the answer itself, it was because of the feeling of being outdated, that his life experience was no longer useful. The other day, at the bar with friends, the conversation turned to politics. Jose didn't even speak loudly, he just gave his opinion. But a friend got up angrily and left, slamming the door, as if he had offended the world. And that started to happen again. Any conversation became a minefield. A well-intentioned comment? Misinterpreted. A memory from the past? Accused of being stuck in time. Jose started to keep his words to himself. To keep quiet. And over time he felt invisible. It was as if his voice, which had previously echoed loudly, now only caused discomfort. But he didn't want to fight. He just wanted to talk. To be heard. He wanted to share, to divide, to be part of. And the worst pain wasn't being contradicted. It was feeling like he no longer had any space. Question: do you feel like people have stopped listening to what you have to say? Third, reflection: a simple sentence changed everything. That morning, Jose left earlier than usual. He needed to take care of some matters in the city center, but deep down, he wanted to get out of the house, breathe some fresh air. The atmosphere inside the house was too heavy, too silent, and he no longer knew how to break the ice that he himself had helped to freeze. He walked slowly along the busy sidewalks, with his hands behind his back, as if he were carrying not only his age, but the weight of misplaced words, misinterpreted silences, and pointless arguments. Arriving at the bank, He looked at the line that stretched around the corner. He sighed deeply and joined it, resigned. It was there that he met an even older man, calm, wearing a hat, with a calm look in his eyes. They started talking about the heat, then about retirement, children, life. The conversation, as always, slipped into a more thorny subject, one that usually ended in an argument. Jose was already preparing himself, almost by reflex, to defend himself. He was about to raise his guard when the man said, with a slight smile, "Look, my friend, you don't have to agree to respect, and you don't even have to win every argument to keep your peace." It was as if the world stopped for a second. That simple sentence hit deep, like an arrow straight to the heart. Jose remained silent, not because he had no answer, but because, for the first time in a long time, he understood something different. He looked at the ground, then at the sky, and thought, "Is this what I'm trying to do? Win every conversation, as if it were a battle?" That day, he didn't go home with his bills settled, but he came home with something much bigger. A key turned inside his chest. He realized that maybe the problem wasn't what he said, but the way he said it. That maybe his search for respect was being confused with imposition. And that sometimes silence is wiser than the last word. That peace is not what we achieve after winning. It's what we build when we choose not to fight. It was the first step towards real change. Question: have you ever heard something simple that made you completely rethink the way you have been living? 4. How he changed his attitude. After that conversation with the man at the bank, something changed in Jose. It wasn't a magical, overnight transformation. It was subtle, like someone changing the tone of their voice without realizing it. But it made a difference. The following Sunday, they were all together again. The daughter was talking about her grandson, the wife was in the kitchen, the grandson was running around the living room. The scene seemed the same, but Jose was different. When his daughter said something about limits and education, he felt the urge to give his opinion. The old urge to correct, to teach, to show that he had already experienced that. But he took a deep breath. He remembered the phrase, "You don't have to win every argument to keep your peace." And instead of interrupting, he listened. Really? At the end of her speech, he just smiled and said, "You're doing a great job. You can see he's very loved." His daughter stopped. He blinked a few times, and smiled back with tears in his eyes. At that moment, something that had been broken began to mend. Not with words, but with respect, with presence, with silent love. His wife, who was listening from the kitchen, felt it too. And that night, after a long time, she sat next to Jose on the porch, with 2 steaming cups of coffee in her hands. They remained silent for long minutes. But it was a light silence, full of complicity. A silence of someone who was finally at peace. Jose had not changed who he was. He continued with his stories, his ideas, his values. But he learned to offer them calmly, without needing to prove anything, without wanting to defeat anyone. The change in attitude did not take away his voice, it only sharpened his tone. And it was thus, little by little, that he recovered what he most feared losing: his family, his bonds, and above all, himself. Question: do you think that sometimes silence can say more than 1,000 arguments? 5th, in the end, Jose only wanted what every man seeks. A few months have passed since Jose's silent decision. He did not become a saint, nor a man without opinions, but he learned to choose his battles, and most importantly, to value what really matters. One day, his wife came into the living room with a shy smile and a freshly baked cake. "Remember when you said that Sunday with coffee and cake was the best day of the week?" Jose laughed, surprised. "I remember. It still is." She sat next to him on the couch, like in the old days. She didn't need much. That gesture, after so many cold silences, said it all. Another memorable moment was her grandson's birthday. When it was time to congratulate him, his daughter, with tears in her eyes, pulled Jose closer to the little one and said, "Dad, you have been an example. Thank you for being so present." That was it. He didn't need to shout to be heard. He just had to be there, all of him. Really. Over time, Jose realized that his relationships were lighter. Not because he kept quiet forever, but because he started speaking from the heart and not from his ego. He stopped trying to win arguments and started winning moments. Peace did not come from outside. It came from within. And oddly enough, that was what changed everything around him the most. Today, when he sits on the porch with his black coffee, Jose looks up at the sky and thinks, "It took me a while, but I learned. Being right is good, but being at peace is liberating." Question: what have you done today to build the peace you so desire to reap tomorrow? If this story touched you, comment here. What can you change today to live with more peace? And send this video to a friend who also needs to hear this. Time is passing, my friend, but there is still time to change.